We have course 1, course 2, course 3, course 4, course 5.
Wow.
One of them, we have our prerequisites, because before we want to show up and receive love in any man's life, we as women, we have to go back foundationally. And the reason why, because God created us as incubators, we incubate a lot. And a lot of times we have to go back to our daddylessness. We have to go back to our rejection. We have to go back to the women in our family that taught us, baby, use what you got to get what you want. You know what it is. We have to go back.
Do you desire love but feel, what's the point? Do you find yourself in repeated cycles? Do you long to be his preferred choice, yet continually reduced to an alternative? No Green Beans, a woman's guide to becoming the ultimate 5-course experience, is metaphorically written to depict the woman as the dimensional dining experience she was designed to be, and not a mere side of green beans. This brilliant transformational writing challenges and compels the woman to discover her worth, position her worth, and present her worth to real men who desire, pursue, and capture. Pre-order your signed copy today at www.nogreenbeans.com.
Great evening, and great evening, everyone. Welcome, and welcome. I am Atiya Stevenson, author of No Green Beans, A Woman's Guide to Becoming the Ultimate 5-Course Experience. I am also your life coach. I simply help you get unstuck. And last but certainly not least, I am your love strategist, where we help you get positioned for what it is that you desire. We help and we empower women to discover their worth, position their worth, and present their worth to who? To real men who desire, pursue, and capture. And so here in this community, Thank you for so much for joining us, by the way, on tonight. And here in this community, we believe in the whole woman. We believe that there is nothing missing and nothing broken. And so, although we are advocates for love, we are advocates of healthy love. We are advocates of healthy love. We certainly do not ascribe to anything goes, anything matters. We in this community believe that there should be nothing missing, nothing broken. So, to that end, again, thank you so much for joining us on tonight. We'd like for you to please go ahead and share, invite and share on this evening. We are going to have a phenomenal time. We're going to be talking about this evening. Love isn't supposed to hurt. That's right, you all. I said it. Love is not supposed to hurt. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have healthy conflict. It doesn't mean that you're not going to agree to disagree at times. It certainly does not mean that you're not going to need a moment to cool off. But ladies and gentlemen, love is not supposed to hurt. And we are here tonight talking about disrupting domestic violence. We have so many of us that are locked in cages in domestic violence. So many of us have been victims at the hand of domestic violence. Some of us are the aggressor as it relates to domestic violence. So we are here tonight with our very special guest, Dr. Yolanda Jerry. We are going to be talking about disrupting the cycle of domestic violence. And she's going to be sharing her story and a lot of other resources. I am super excited on tonight. I'm super excited on tonight. So we're going to go ahead. I am going to bring her on. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on right now. And I'm going to read her bio. Great evening, great evening. I'm going to read her bio, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Advocacy is centered at the heart of every philanthropist. Echoing the notion at its finest is the diversified professional, Dr. Yolanda Jerry. Dr. Yolanda Jerry is a best-selling author, speaker, business guru, and the CEO and founder of YJ Empowerment Solutions, LLC, and YJ Inspires, a multidisciplinary advocacy program which was invented to help clients push past their traumas and elevate to the next level, both personally and professionally. Affectionately known as the empowerment advocate, Dr. Jerry is reputed for her innate ability to exhort multi-generational audiences through her powerful and relatable messages as she passionately advocates for truth, healing, resiliency, and personal growth. Adding to her philanthropic capacity, Dr. Yolanda Jerry is also a retired Air Force veteran and co-founder of Bridging the Gap, a transitional youth program. As a highly respected member of both local and national community, Yolanda has been featured and headlined in well-respected publications. One of Yolanda's most celebrated features was an article where she wrote, "The Day I Decided to Leave." A compelling survivor's testament, so impressive it was chosen by highly respected serial producer and screenwriter Shonda Rhimes to be displayed in her online storytelling periodic column. When Dr. Yolanda Jerry is not out advocating for those in need, she is a loving partner, a mother, and a friend. So at this time, I would like to introduce to us Dr. Yolanda Jerry. Dr. Jerry, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us on tonight. I am super excited and just really honored to be able to have this discussion with you, to be able to speak with you, for you to be able to share your story with us so we can talk about one of the things that I feel like that, and I'll use in a relationship space as an example. I am a relationship coach, and a lot of times in the relationship space we talk about love, and we talk about the blissful, and we talk about the high value, and all of these things we talk about as the world turns. But myself, and what I realize the both of us have in common, is we like to talk about what's not being said. And so tonight, we are going to be talking about love isn't supposed to hurt, disrupting domestic violence. Again, Dr. Yolanda, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Miss Stevenson. It's a pleasure to be here to have this dialogue with you and to be able to share with those on your platform this evening.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get jump right in. If you could tell us a little bit about you, who exactly is Dr. Yolanda Jerry?
Well, you have already given my bio, so I'm gonna just tell you who I am in the real. I am
Yes.
a mother, I'm a friend. I love being able to help individuals who have been victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and youth who have been bullied. But more so, I'm a woman of God, and I
Yes.
believe that when we serve in that capacity of being a vessel for God, we're able to help people and inspire, as you have here, say inspire, ignite, and impart, and be able to encourage people around the
Yes.
world who could
Yes.
be struggling, who may be going through abuse, who may be having trials and tribulations, and just be able to help them along their healing journey.
Awesome, 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 awesome. So, can you tell us, Dr. Yolanda, how exactly did you get into the space of becoming a domestic violence advocate? Where did it hit home for you?
So it hit home for me because I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I was in an abusive marriage for 5 years, by the hands of my daughter's father, my only child. And I dealt with that for 5 years, probably 5 years too long. But
Mhm.
I thank God I was able to leave out of that abusive marriage at that time. But it took a lot for me to leave. You always hear people say it takes about 7 to 9 times to leave an abusive marriage or a relationship, which is true. A lot of times we as individuals don't realize the severity of what we're going through until we're actually put in that hot seat in that situation.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, how exactly? So, I heard you say that you were in a domestic violence relationship for 5 years. And I also heard you say that it was at the hands of your daughter's father, which some would say, okay, well, I have a child by this man or by this woman. Clearly that should signify a sense of closeness, a sense of camaraderie in a sense. Can you tell us, how did you get free? Because there are some that can look at others and say, wow, I wish that I could do that. Wow, I wish that I could be like that. So, can you please walk us through your journey of becoming actually free?
So, and that journey wasn't easy, right? To
Hmm.
be free. It took counseling, it took therapy, but it also took people loving on me. Because again, you got
Hmm.
to remember, I was in an abusive marriage. So going through abuse, we don't know. I mean, we don't feel love. We don't know what love is. And sometimes it was just hard for us to trust people. So being able to trust other individuals, knowing they're not out to hurt us,
Hmm.
was one of those key factors. Being able to be vulnerable enough. And even though I was vulnerable with my spouse at the time, I was
Hmm.
vulnerable to him, but he took advantage of it, right? But hoping and praying that another individual wouldn't do the same thing when they were trying to help me along the way. So again, therapy, the counseling, and also just fully surrendering to God and saying, hey, I can't do this anymore.
Hmm.
I need your help. I need you to help me out with this. And what happened was when I fully surrendered and realized I need, it was a time to walk away, was when I saw that there were people who were willing to help.
Hmm.
I had
Hmm.
a first sergeant that really saw right through me. I had people that saw right
Mm.
through me,
Hmm.
and it was like enough is enough. I had friends that a friend that opened her door and said, hey, you can come stay with me anytime that you need.
Hmm.
But it took me having to open my mouth and say something. Saying it took me opening my mouth to say, okay, you know what? It's time to move. It's time to leave. So in order to be free, I had to go through that whole process of being able to trust, go
Hmm.
through therapy, and
Hmm.
not just me go through therapy. As my daughter got older, she had to get therapy too, as well.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
people don't understand that Whether they think kids, even at the young age of 3, will remember things, they do. You know,
Yes.
even at that
Yes.
age, they'll remember certain little snippets that they've gone through in their life, and they'll remember that just as if it was yesterday. So, you know,
Yes, absolutely.
just leaning on God, having the people with me, around me, surrounding me with love, and just going
Mhm.
through the healing process of going through therapy.
Awesome, awesome. Now, Dr. Yolanda, I heard you say trust, and that rang a bell to me. Can you please explain to us how important it is? Because for you to be able to trust someone else, you said it yourself, you didn't know who you could trust, right? Because in this an abusive situation, you're deceived anyway. And you don't feel like you could trust anyone. For crying out loud, the man or the woman that I'm sleeping with is mishandling me. So who can I trust? I totally get that. But can you please walk us through overcoming the stigma that is attached to it? Because we have so many people, whether the person is affluential or influential. A lot of domestic abuse goes on in the church that we don't talk about,
Woo.
right? And so a lot of times when we're in situations where to us and to others, we shouldn't be going through that. So it almost makes you live, in that. So can you please walk us through that, the importance of overcoming that stigma?
It's really important. You have to find yourself. Let me just say this: when you know what love is, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to come in relationship form, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can come from, and what I mean, in an intimate relationship form,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that God loves us, right? So walking through that, knowing that God loves us, and He's going to send you the people that you need in that
Yes.
moment. And sometimes
Yes.
it may not be the people that you thought would be there. It could be a total stranger, somebody
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't even know you, that will help you walk through that process. And then leaning on other people, it's like, if they say a closed mouth doesn't get fed.
Yes.
And if I don't say I'm going through something, how can somebody help me? You know what I mean? So if I
Mm-hmm.
don't open my mouth and say I need help, or if I don't open my mouth and say I'm going through something, then how can I allow somebody to help me? But again, that could be a stranger. And I know sometimes people say, oh, a stranger can't help me. Even in business, you realize strangers would be the biggest advocates for you than someone in your own family or your own
Absolutely.
friend. But what does it matter where the love comes from, as long as it's genuine, is pure, and is out of God's love to help you? These people genuinely care about you.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
where the trust factor comes in. Is just one, taking a leap of faith and knowing that God is going to put the right people in place at the right time to be able to help you.
Yes, absolutely. Can you, while we're here, can you please talk about, um, okay, so again, going back to, because I really sense spiritually that there are people that may be watching, that are watching, but there are people that are victims at the hand of domestic violence every day. And they are in a situation, or they're in positions of notoriety, they're in positions of publicity, they're in positions of affluence and influence. And so the woman or the man, I'll use a woman in this example, she feels like she's more willing to cover up for him and who it is that he is. You follow me, right? It's a lot of that. I've heard stories, I see it, I know it. So how is it, what would you say to a woman that is actually suffering at the hands of domestic violence, emotional abuse, however, is still hiding behind a title or a role?
Well, look, I'm going to relay it to, I'll relay it back to my story. I stayed because I was in the military. I
Hmm.
was married to another military member. They
Hmm.
were in a position of authority, and so was I. And,
Hmm.
and when you look at the bigger picture, it's like I stayed because I was worried about what other people would think, in
Hmm.
the military, because the military is a small community where people think it or not, and you can damage somebody's career depending on, if that person, depending on the severity of the action that happen. I mean,
Hmm.
a person can literally lose rank. They can get in trouble, and then you
Sure.
start looking at other things like, I'm not going to have any finances coming in because now
Hmm.
it's solely on me, and those type of things. And it goes further, even further than that. But what I have to say to individuals who see somebody in a position of authority, look at it this way. If you continue to enable someone to do that, then you're allowing them to be able to do it to other people. Because who knows, they might not just be doing it just to you. They could be doing it to other people that's serving them in a business role too. They could have those. Again, domestic abuse isn't always physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Domestic abuse is also considered coercive control, which means
Mm-hmm.
manipulative behaviors, narcissistic behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So you are not only enabling this person to do it to you, but you're enabling them to do it to other people around them, right? And so when you look at the grand scheme of things, when it comes to just you being in that relationship, how much are you willing to take, and are you willing to sacrifice your own life at the hands of somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
I know if I want to leave this world, I want to leave because of natural causes or because God said it's time to go. I don't want to be 6 feet under because of the hands of another person that I allowed to do this to me. So again, a person, I don't care what position of authority, and you mentioned something earlier talking about, let me tell you, we can talk a whole story about domestic violence that happens in these churches and people being in position of authority and leading these churches. That's a whole different story we can sit there and talk about.
Yes.
Because people don't want to put their pastors out, and talk about, all the stuff that's going on with their first lady.
Yes.
But
yes,
it's wrong. Wrong
Yes.
is wrong on no matter how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to preach the gospel where it talks about love is patient, love is kind,
Yes.
and all those different things, but here it is, you beating your first lady behind closed doors. You're being a hypocrite.
Yes.
So again, it doesn't matter what title you hold. Abuse is not love, and you shouldn't be willing to take that. And if you are afraid to get out, lean on to someone that that you trust, that can get you the resources that you need, so that way you can get the help that you need and get out.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I heard you make mention of it. Can you tell us exactly what is domestic abuse? Because I heard you just say that it's not only physical. What exactly is domestic abuse?
Domestic abuse is where you are basically, abusing somebody, whether it's in a mental capacity, manipulating them, calling them names, saying all kinds of things, isolating them, and again, it is various levels to this. Financial abuse, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Abuse where your intimate partner could be raping you.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional abuse where they're just kind of just downplaying everything that you do,
Yes.
calling you out your name and saying
Yes.
all these different things. So again, it's not always physical at
Mm-hmm.
all. But when people think of that, they say domestic violence is always, that's the first thing that comes to mind is the physical aspect. But it's all the different levels that lead up to that before it gets to that physical part. There's levels to domestic abuse, unfortunately, but you have all these other roles that take a part in that before it gets to that part.
Excellent, excellent. So we can flow right into my next question. It is going to be my next question. So you said that there are different types of abuse that lead up to even before I smack you or hit you upside your head or push you. There were other indicators, right, Dr. Jerry? There were other indicators that led up to that. So can you please share with us what are some warning signs? What are some indicators of an abusive an abusive person that can lead to domestic violence?
Wanting to know every move that you make.
Mm-hmm.
You know where you're going, why you ain't made it back at this time. Wanting to know all your friends. I mean, there's nothing wrong with knowing each other's friends, but not you don't know their phone numbers all the time, all of their personal information.
Mm-hmm.
Another sign is always wanting you to be around them and their friends, but trying to isolate you from your own friends, especially if you have friends before. Now all of a sudden, you can't be hanging out with your friends. You don't hang out with me enough. So they start making things about them all the time instead of about us. And you'll see where they, like I said, they'll isolate you from your family, your friends. When it comes to finances, I mean, controlling the money, like you're spending too much money, or you shouldn't be going buy this purse, or you shouldn't be going buy this bag. Well, why not? We both working,
Mm-hmm.
we both have income coming in the
Mm-hmm.
house, but
Mm-hmm.
you can go and
Mm-hmm.
spend all the money though as much as you want. You know what I mean? You putting a limit on my finances, but you can go spend what you want anytime you get ready.
Mm-hmm.
So, I
Yes.
mean, those things too are some of the signs. Calling you out your name when they never used to call you out your name, belittling you,
Mm-hmm.
telling you that you're fat or you too skinny, but
Mm-hmm.
here it is, we in a relationship. I mean, what are you doing to help me lose this weight? What are you
Yes.
doing to help me with my health?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of talking down to me and telling me things, or using kids, if you leave me, use the children, right? Use the children.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good
I'll
one.
go take you to court, and those kind of things, and fight for the kids because you're an unfit mother.
Wow.
You do X, Y, Z, or you've been drinking. Well, hey, I learned how to drink from you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes,
Mm-hmm. So now it's reverse. Okay. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, those are just some of the signs. There's so many of them, but those are just some of the warning signs that you may see. And again, it's like I said, there's so many different things that you can speak on. There's so many levels to it, so many signs out there, but those are the most ones that you normally see.
Okay, excellent. And Dr. Jerry, I really can appreciate that because I say all the time, I have millennial daughters, and I often tell them how sometimes control can be taken as a compliment. Control can be disguised in a person really appearing as if they care. I don't want you to go over there, or I want you to spend time with me. Exactly what it is that you said. And there are really indicators of someone being controlling and borderline narcissistic. But if we don't have a lens to see that, we will misperceive it and think, oh, they really like me. Or right, or yeah, oh, they really like me, or oh, they really enjoy, spending time. So it's definitely important, to keep to be sober. And I always say you love with head and heart. You have to do things in a sober state, because if loving you is harming me, that's not a healthy sense of love, right?
Absolutely.
If I have to gauge me loving you and us going through thick and thin is based upon how you mishandle me, how you misuse me, how you abuse me, how your infidelity, that should not be an indicator of how strong my love is for you, right? So there's different indicators, and I love what it is that you said with regard to the warning signs. So here we are. I know you said you've been in a relationship, you were in a marriage for 5 years, an abusive marriage. But there's some, Dr. Yolanda, that leave and they come back.
Mm-hmm.
They leave and they come back. Can you please tell us why is it sometimes that victims return or stay with abusers
You
that
know,
they know that isn't healthy?
it's called a cycle of abuse, right? It's like a cycle. You're like in this, this romantic stage. You always have romance that plays a role in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have romance in a relationship, that gives you hope, right? But then when you go through the abuse and these things happen, it's like, okay, in a victim's mentality, you're looking at trying to weigh the pros and the cons of the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good outweigh the bad, and what do I have to lose? Is this going to hurt me in the long run? So you start being your own uh, devil's advocate, if you will, in your own brain. But the thing is, the reason why people, they leave and they come back, and they leave and they come back, is because of
Mm-hmm.
many things. Children are involved. I
Mm.
don't want my children to grow up without the other parent. And again, going back to my situation, my mom and dad were married for 44 years until my dad left this earth. So I didn't
Mm.
grow up in a broken household.
Sure,
I grew
sure.
up with my parents. So for me, it's like I'm fighting for our marriage. Even though he was fighting me, I'm fighting for our marriage to try to see if he was going to change or if things was going to turn around. That I was always holding on to hope,
Mm-hmm.
praying that God would change his heart, praying God would change who he is, so that way we can continue to work forward instead of always feeling like we're always going backwards. So my daughter was involved. And so I was always thinking about her instead of thinking about me. You know, I
Mhm.
didn't want to
Mhm.
talk about her dad. The other
Mhm.
part is finances. I was so used
Mhm.
to living in a household where we had double income coming into the house.
Mhm.
So having double income coming in the house and we sharing money, of course, anybody wants to be in a household where you got double income coming in instead of opposed to a single parent
Of
income.
course. Of course.
And so if I at that time left, during that time that I stayed or kept going back, it was like, okay, now how am I going to take care of my daughter on this single income? I have all these bills.
Mhm.
At the time while I was married, just about everything was in my name. So if we got a divorce, then what happens? That
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
falls on me,
Mhm.
especially if it's just my name on it. How am I going to pay these bills? How am I going to pay this car note? How am I going to pay this mortgage? How am I going to make sure that my daughter's okay? So again, money played a role in that too as well. And then the
Mhm.
stigma of what would my family, my friends think about me?
Mhm. Mhm.
Especially when I was used to being around other couples, right? We had coupled friends. So
Sure.
who am I to break up our family? Because we already know that the manipulator or the abuser, he's going to make it seem like it's my fault,
Of course.
right? That and I'm the reason why our marriage didn't work out.
Mhm.
So again, just all those other things that play a factor in my head that I'm thinking about, during that time as well, of why I left and why I decided to come back. Thinking about what other people would think, not
Mhm.
knowing if I'm going to be able to be financially stable.
Mhm.
What would my daughter think as she got older?
Mhm.
About what I did to break up her mom and dad's marriage and relationship, or would she think that it was her fault? Because
Mhm.
sometimes it's not about me. She would probably think that it was her fault that we didn't work out. Because sometimes kids do think that way too as well. So again, that's just some of the reasons why people leave and they come back. Because of those different type things as that.
Awesome. And so it sounds like the indicators and the reasons that you gave me, some of them sound like they were rooted in fear as well. Just fear of fear, whether it's to be
Fear of the unknown.
alone, with. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Fear of the unknown, not
Mhm.
knowing how I'm going to survive after,
Mhm.
right? How am I, worrying about having to start all over again, not knowing who's going to be around me. Am I going to lose family and friends?
Mhm. Mhm.
What do I have to sacrifice now in order to make sure that my daughter and I are good?
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. So how is it? I have to say, Dr. Jerry, that I am an advocate for um, confidence and allowing your voice to be heard. I am an advocate because I believe that all of our feelings matter, our thoughts matter, what we say matters, who we are in the earth. When God created us, He created no one in the world like us. So we matter. And so if I see broken men or women, for that matter, um, in a place where their voice has been muted, their esteem has been tampered or compromised. Can you explain to us, how does domestic violence steal or mute your voice and esteem?
You say, how does it still do that?
How steal, like steal,
Oh,
like take something, steal, STEAL? Yes.
well, I mean, again, it comes back to being ashamed of what you've gone through,
Okay.
and not, and then also not be healed yet. Healing is a process, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's healing journey is different, and what I found throughout my time is I didn't get my voice back right away. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
let's be real. I left
Yes.
my divorce. I mean, I left my marriage. Went through divorce. I was mute for a good bit of time before I was able to actually start talking about it. And really, I didn't start talking about it much until I actually start writing.
Mm.
I had to start journaling. I had to start writing, and then
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, as I was able to start writing and journaling, it made me more comfortable about telling my story. And
Mm-hmm.
telling my story means sharing it with other people. I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
publicly, in private, I would share it, or some
Sure.
that knew me. But then
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, it's just like one day somebody tagged me on Facebook and say, hey, somebody's looking for somebody to share the story about domestic violence abuse.
Mm-hmm.
That, now don't get me wrong, that scared me a little bit, right?
Sure.
But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I looked at that as a blessing. And it's like, okay, God is looking for me to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Know,
Mm-hmm.
like you're in a place where you've been sharing your story with these people in private, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a general conversation. Now I need you to take this to another level, because there's other people that you don't know that
Yes.
really need to hear what you've overcome, so that
Yes.
you can help them along their journey. So
Absolutely.
it wasn't about me. It wasn't, at the end of the day, the way I look at it is my story is not my story. My story is God's story for me to be able to pass on to someone else.
Yes, awesome. And I totally, totally agree, because there are some that may watch you from near, and there are some that may watch you from afar, and you never know who you're giving hope to. It's like, wow, if they can do it, then I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and it goes back to the isolation that you were basically speaking of, because if you can divide, then you can conquer, right? And
Right.
so if I can get you away, if I can get all of the voices, anyone that speaks any type of life into you, anyone that can say, girl or guy, what are you doing, well, how dare you let he or she treat you like that? So I have to, if I can get you away from all of those people, then all you're hearing is what I say.
Right.
So I totally, totally understand. And sometimes when you're in those situations, it's like you're in, one of those, those 2 feet thick glasses banging on the door. Does anybody hear me? Does anybody see me?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. 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 So I want to pivot a little bit, because I know that we talked about, indicators, and we talked about, why people stay. And I know we talked about victims, right? But now I want to shift to the aggressor. I want to shift because I personally believe that everyone, right? That everyone can be healed, right? That everyone can go through, just like you have a victim that goes through a process, the aggressor can go through a process as well. Uh, Please explain to us, or tell us, do you feel that it is possible for abusers to change, and what do those steps look like?
It is possible, even in some people that I've even coached, more so even some of the male aggressors.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use this as an example. I just did a 3-day training, probably I think it was a month or two ago, over at one of the casinos here, and
Mm-hmm.
that was history in the making right there, because this is a training that's never been done. But
Wow.
truth be told, after I gave the training, along with the partnered with the Domestic Violence Center here, Gulf Coast Center for Nonviolence, I was amazed at the people that came to me after the fact, and realized I'm the aggressor, I'm the abuser. These people admitted this stuff to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Education is key. Education is key, because sometimes these people don't even know that they're being abused. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
being an abuser, being the
Mm-hmm.
aggressor. They
Mm-hmm.
think this is normal behavior that they're doing because of maybe the way they grew up, the people they were around, and this is just something that was normal to them. And then not true. And we're gonna go ahead and put it out there too as well. This is normal behavior that we see out there, whether it's on social media, whether it's on TV, and it's been normalized. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to educate the people to ensure they understand, including the aggressor. Hey, this is what an abuser and aggressor looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get that education, they can self-reflect and look at themselves and say, man, I'm doing some of these things. I need to check myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so, once they realize these type of things, then once they realize that, they figure they need to get some help, because again, I had a couple of people come to me that they said, I think I'm the aggressor, I'm the abuser.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me how they could get the help. We have resources. You know, just like we give the education and the resources to the victim, we also give it to those who admit they are the abuser and aggressor as well, and they're seeking help. So yes, an aggressor can turn around and be a better person and turn out to be probably a better person after that, after they realize, hey, I need to make sure that I get my own help. I don't need nobody to tell me that I'm an abuser. I recognize that on my own.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that that's so important because sometimes, you know, when we look at patterns in history, sometimes we're born into things. Sometimes, like you said, we just don't know. You know, you may have a gentleman that watched his mother be beat his whole life at the hands of his father. And so he thought it was normal because they fought at night and, you know, and then everything was fine the next day. And so we never know what shapes our reality. And so that's why I definitely ask that. For those that are viewing, if you could please tag and share. If you have any questions for us, I have pinned our email address in the comments. It is also on the flyer. Email us at Atiya, Atiya at atiyasemela.com. It is in the comments. If you have a question for Dr. Jerry on tonight, if you have a question for her on tonight, Dr. Jerry, your website is IamYolandaJerry.com. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so I'm going to put it. It's. I have the banner. It's going across. That's where you can get more information regarding Dr. Jerry. She's going to be talking to us more about her resources and things like that. But her email, her website is going across currently. So you did say you do believe that it's possible for the aggressor to make that change, and you do have resources for that. That's good. So I want to talk about men that are victims of domestic violence because I'm an advocate. So yes, of course, I am in the relationship space, and I know that I am called to serve women, but I also honor the man, and I also know that I'm called to serve men in a certain capacity. And a part of me, Dr. Jerry, if I could be totally honest, I'm kind of an advocate for men sometimes because I feel like the man is overlooked, they're undervalued. And I don't mean it's not a right or wrong thing when it comes to men and women. It's just different, right? So I know that there are a lot of things that we as women endure, but there's also a lot of things that men endure as well. And a lot of times men are more inward and introverted with theirs because from the time that they were children, they were taught not to cry. Men don't cry. Suck it up. We as women, you know, when we're young, we can cry. They pick us up. They put us on the lap. Baby, it's going to be okay. But for the men, suck it up. Grow up. You a man. Don't cry. And so what happens in relationships, they're emotionally unavailable. They don't know how to process pain. They don't know how to process an emotion. So now the wife is a punching bag. And
Right.
I'm not justifying, but again, we're talking about reasons as to why. And like you said, when a lot of times they don't realize that they are the aggressor. You know, I didn't realize, I didn't mean to hurt my family. I didn't mean to hurt my children. I didn't mean to take my family through that. You know what? I do need some help. And so also to that end, there are men that endure domestic violence as well. Can you talk to us about that, please?
Yes, they are. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it's so true. That's been from I mean, it goes on for generations, right?
Mhm,
That, you know, a man is not supposed to be in touch with their emotions. You know,
mhm,
they're not
mhm,
supposed to show that, you know, their feelings are hurt. You know,
mhm.
they're not supposed to be vulnerable. But I'm gonna tell you something my daddy told me. He said real men cry, you know,
Yes,
and that's because they have a heart. You know,
yes,
when a man cries and he has a heart, that lets you know that if he's in tune with his emotions, then he's going to be in tune with your emotions as well.
yes, yes.
And so, um, when a man feels like he has a safe space
Mhm,
to come to,
mhm,
and knowing that the woman is not going to judge them,
mhm,
and you know they'll become that person that's willing to be vulnerable. But
mhm,
we as women have to be there, you know, because I will say this, you know, sometimes I've seen some women, I mean, they are so hard on men.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really hard on men. You know,
Yeah.
you're not a man if you're not
Yeah.
going to do this. You're not a man if you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we push them to
Mm-hmm.
that point,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes. And so when you push somebody to that point, of course, I mean, no, we don't deserve to be hit. We don't need deserve to be abused. But sometimes we as women need to learn how to talk to the men,
Yes.
talk to them in
Yes.
a way that they feel loved, right?
Yes. Yes.
They feel like they can be who they are without being judged because they're a man,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
But it's so true. I get it. You know, coming out soon, one of the things, I just dropped a book, My Walk Past Hell, with 30 phenomenal women with
Mm.
deep trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But my next edition, my volume 2 is going to be for all male
Yes.
who have gone through trauma
Awesome.
and a
Awesome.
deep trauma,
Yes.
where they're going to be allowed to be vulnerable with each other, and I feel
Yes.
like they're going to be judged. And
Yes.
I feel that if I offer this platform to these men and they know that I am able to resonate with them on what they're going through, they
Yes.
will be comfortable to be able to be a part of this book project, but also know that there's other men like them that have gone through something and they are not alone. These men need to
Yes.
know that they're not alone too as well. Yes, we women need to know that we're not alone, but
Mm-hmm.
these men need to understand that there are men just like you that have gone through trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
they need somebody to be by their side too, to help them too as well as they continue to heal.
Absolutely. And I think that that's so important. And I'm so glad that even that both resonates, that the men resonates with both of us as well, because it's just the fact. Even in my book is toward women, is teaching women how to discover their value. But I have a mantra there, Dr. Jerry, and the mantra, there are 10 things that we as women live by. And one of them is taking responsibility and not blaming the man or anyone else, right? Because someone can only do what it is that you allow them. But something else is another part of the mantra is it was me. I faced the hard but liberating truth. It was me. It wasn't him. I was the accuser. I was the manipulator. I was the seductress. I was the plotter. I was the schemer. I was the one that hit below the belt. It was me. And I'm saying that to say that it's not always the man. And when a woman becomes whole and in her space, we have to understand that we have to give the men the respect and the honor that they deserve. And like you said, creating that safe space is so very important, because men carry wounds too. And they carry the wounds, but a lot of times, Dr. Jerry, and I know you can attest to that, it comes out in anger because they don't know how to process it. Men are sexually abused. Men, as we're talking now, they go through domestic violence, but because they don't feel like they can even have that moment, they always have to be strong. A man, we make men feel like they always have to be strong. They can never take their cape off. They can never lay their head and just rest, because they always have to be in a place of offense. And so I totally agree. I totally agree. And so have you encountered men that have been victims of domestic violence?
I have. Hmm.
Okay.
I have. Absolutely. And coached a couple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to learn how to move on, them knowing their own self-worth. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
they go through the same thing women go through,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the same emotional and mental challenges women do. You know,
Absolutely.
learning how to trust women again,
Mm-hmm.
how to know that a woman is not going to come at me like the last woman did.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do I go out and still do what I do? How are people going to see me? They go through the same thing. They're just a different gender.
Absolutely. 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 And it shows as well. It really, really shows. It does. It does. It does. So if you could tell us, even as we prepare to wrap up, so how does domestic violence affect children?
It affects them big time. Like I mentioned earlier, my daughter, she battled with, wondering why her dad didn't love her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with us not being, this was, of course, after the fact, after we divorced. She felt her dad didn't love her,
Mm-hmm.
um, after the fact. So you have to constantly love and nurture that child and give them all the love that you can give them to
Mm-hmm.
help fill in the gap for the love that's missing from the other parent. And the hope is that maybe when you move on, there's another person that steps in to be that father figure to that child,
Mm-hmm.
or mother figure to that child, and can give them the love that's missing and be able to fill that void. But they have to go through the same thing we as adults go through. We have to go through that healing process too as well. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to still teach them the right way, to love someone, despite what they've seen and what they've gone through.
Absolutely. 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 So I'm going to, while I am posting this National Domestic Violence Hotline, the telephone number, Dr. Jerry, can you please speak to someone, whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, who is currently, as we speak, silently in an abusive relationship? Can you speak, please speak a word of hope, a word of encouragement, something to them?
My word of encouragement to you, the one that could be going through that right now, is know that you're not alone. No matter how you may feel, you are absolutely not alone. I mean, the numbers displayed on the hotline, if you're in a situation right now, 1-800-799-7233. That number is open 24 hours, 7 days a week. I know here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, we have a hotline number two as well. We provide shelter, we provide services, we give you what you call that, legal services too as well. If you are done with your relationship, you have legal aid to assist you with getting divorced. We also have, partnership with the police force, to make sure that you have restraining orders. And I know here in Mississippi too as well, if you still feel unsafe, at the Attorney General's office, you can have a fake address. You can have an address. If somebody's looking for you, you'll have a fake address, but only the people that have a need to know have your real address in the Attorney General's office. So anything that goes to that address will be forwarded to you, to your physical address. So just know that you're not alone. There's so many resources out there. If you have access to the internet, all you have to do is type in domestic violence, and so much stuff comes up. Even there's a website for domestic violence. I think it's domesticviolenceshelters.org. You can go there and find out all of the different domestic violence shelters that's around the US. So if you're in a particular state, there's possibly one not too far from you. So just reach out, know that you're not alone. There's so many people that are willing to help at a moment's notice. And I know I'm definitely one of them.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. And to that end, if you could please, Dr. Jerry, if you could go into, what resources you offer, what is available for you, and how, our viewers can reach you going
Right.
forward.
You can reach out to me if you go to my website. Of course, it's right there on the screen. It says IamYolandaJerry.com. You can also reach out to me via my email, which is Yolanda@yjempowers.com. I offer, a counsel, and I also do group coaching sessions too as well. And if I can't help you, I have a plethora of resources where you can actually get help too if I'm not the right fit for you.
Okay, awesome. And I've also just put her information in the chat. I've also put her information in the chat, Yolanda@yjempowers.com. And you can reach her on her website, www.IamYolandaJerry.com. IamYolandaJerry.com. I thank you so, so much for sharing your story with us on tonight, for giving us hope, for giving someone hope. And just as Dr. Jerry said, you are not alone. You don't have to suffer in silence. There are resources that are available for you. There are resources that are available for you. Dr. Jerry, if you don't mind, can you please close us, and just pray us out, please, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Father God, I come to you right now as humbly as I know how. Uh, in thanking you for everything that you've allowed myself and Miss Stevenson to share on tonight, to be able to do your will, to help those who are suffering in silence, those who are going through abuse right now in this moment. And hopefully what we have given them tonight is encouragement and being able to empower them to move in a direction that they need to move, to ensure that they are safe, to ensure that they are loved, and to just know their worth right now in this moment. Abuse is not love. We know that love is patient, love is kind. It says it in the word of God. It says it in the Bible. So I ask that whatever that person is going through right now, that they put themselves in a position where they put themselves first, and always know that you are there to help us along the way. And also encourage them to reach out to anybody, to include me. I'm a resource. The domestic violence hotline is a resource. Miss Stevenson is a resource. Or anybody that's up in the chat, that's been in the chat and they've made themselves available, reach out to someone. Because right now, the way I feel is, in order to be able to help anyone right now, we have to make sure that we are a willing vessel to help do the work that you desire us to do. So I pray all these different things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen, amen, and amen. Thank you so much again, Dr. Jerry, for joining us on tonight. And can you please, before we adjourn, let them know where we can find you on social media, please?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My handle is YJ Empowers. And you can also now follow me on Facebook under the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show. Actually, tune in tomorrow. I'm putting that plug in if you don't mind, Miss Steve.
No, not at
Tomorrow,
all.
where we will be, I'll be interviewing Pastor Frank Henderson, and we'll be talking about a good topic. Did nobody want me overcoming abandonment?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So make sure you go over and follow Dr. Jerry on her pages as well. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on tonight, Dr. Jerry. Thank you all for joining us on tonight. Remember to tag and share if you know someone that is suffering at the hands of domestic violence. Continue to be a voice. Continue to be a voice. This is a serious matter that we're dealing with, and we can't have it be out of sight, out of mind, because there are people that are dying. I've never, Dr. Jerry, in my life have seen so many young girls being killed at the hands of young boys. Yeah. Before, when we were growing up, it was okay, they were being, abused, but never this young, never this young. And so our heart definitely goes out to families, those of you that have been victims of someone from domestic violence. So again, we are here. The resources have been presented. And thank you all so much for joining us on tonight. And until next time, you'll have a wonderful night. Bye-bye. Thank you.